Here's a riddle for you. What does Donald Trump's destruction of the East Wing and trying to raise up a Golden Ballroom over its wreckage have to do with Senator Mark Kelly and his lawsuit against Pete Hegseth and the Trump administration for them trying to demote him because he told the truth in a video, along with 4 other members of Congress, that military troops must not and may not follow unconstitutional and illegal orders. They can't use the just following orders defense, and they should know that. What do those 2 things have in common? A judge. Judge Richard Leon, District Judge, District of D.C., is handling both cases. And he was just as skeptical in the ballroom case as he has been in the new hearing involving Senator Mark Kelly. It looks to me like Judge Leon is going to side for Mark Kelly, stop his censure, stop his demotion at the hands of Pete Hegseth because he had the courage to tell American service people, don't give up the ship and don't follow Donald Trump over the abyss of constitutional violations. I'm Michael Popok. I'm going to cover 2 matters that are related. Elissa Slotkin, Michigan Senator, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, both fighting back against the Trump administration, and they are winning. You're here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. Take a minute and hit the subscribe button for both. All right, let's start with Kelly since I whetted your appetite. Judge Leon, a Bush appointee, relatively conservative, has handled a number of cases against the against the Trump administration in the last term. He's presiding over the ballroom. He's the judge about 2 weeks ago who said, I don't think the ballroom coming up out of the ground without congressional approval is appropriate. We're still waiting on the ruling related to that. And now the spin of the wheel and random selection of judges has landed on him to handle Mark Kelly's lawsuit. Now, let me remind everybody, or have you see it for the first time, it was a 90-second powerful video created by 5 members of Congress who were members of the military or intelligence community, reminding soldiers, especially in light of the National Guard fiasco in various cities, the Border Patrol and ICE and the rest, and the worry that the Commander-in-Chief, Donald Trump, who's our first criminal president, is going to try to order people to do criminal things, to remind them not to do it and to stand up for the oath that they took, an oath that they took, like I did, to support and defend the Constitution, not to support and defend whoever is the current occupant in the White House. They have to make their own independent judgment, sure, within the chain of command about whether that order is legal or not. And they don't get a defense, as we know from the Nuremberg trials from World War II and the Nazis. They don't get a defense of, I was just following orders. Let's play the 90-second clip. Play it.
I'm Senator Elissa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris Deluzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
And the intelligence community.
Who take risks each day
To keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
like us. You all swore an oath.
To protect and defend this Constitution.
And right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad.
But from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law.
Or our Constitution.
We know this is hard.
And that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
The Army.
Our Navy.
The Air Force.
Your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
The American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws.
Our Constitution.
And who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Now, immediately, Donald Trump went mad, went crazy, went cuckoo. It's hard to tell with him, but he did. He started issuing all sorts of postings like they should be hanged. George Washington would have hanged them. They committed seditious conspiracy. I mean, it takes a seditious conspirator to know one. because somebody like Mark Kelly, former shuttle commander, captain in the Navy, flew dozens and dozens of dangerous missions during the Iraq War. Married to Gabby Giffords, a United States Senator, sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee, providing oversight over the Department of Defense, things like that. He didn't think it was proper, and I agree with them, that Pete Hegseth threatened him with demotion, right? Court-martial, censure in response to the 90-second video. And Pete Hegseth came in and said, well, you know, he's under our jurisdiction. He's a retiree, but he's still subject to the Code of Military Justice. And like any retiree, he has limited First Amendment rights. The senator fought back and said, what are you talking about? I've got the First Amendment rights as a senator, like every American, to make that comment. I have speech and debate privilege because I'm a senator. And all you're trying to do is retaliate against me because I provide oversight over your department. And that there's never been a case in history in which the executive branch and the Department of Defense has ever tried to censure and take away the speech of a sitting senator. Here's Mark Kelly on the floor of the Senate talking about this case. Play it.
He doesn't like what I said. And so he is trying to censure and demote me. Pete Hegseth is now coming after what I earned through my 25 years of military service in violation of my rights as an American and as a retired veteran and as a United States Senator whose job it is to hold this and any administration accountable.
Now that brings us to the court case with Judge Leon. They just held a hearing on an injunction hearing, temporary restraining order hearing, brought by Mark Kelly to stop the censure. And the judge said to the Department of Justice lawyers who were leaning into this argument that Mark Kelly's just a regular retiree, who has limited First Amendment rights. The judge said, stop. He's a senator. He's a sitting senator in the United States Senate. He has First Amendment rights. He has speech and debate rights. Cite for me one case in the Supreme Court or District of Columbia Court of Appeals or the Circuit Court of Appeals that allows me to do what you're asking me to do, that you're going to win. And they couldn't cite any. So based on this back and forth with this hearing, I doubt that Judge Leon is going to go so far as to allow the executive branch to censure the legislative branch through Mark Kelly. Here's Mark Kelly, slightly giddy after he left the hearing. Let's play the clip.
There's nothing more fundamental to our democracy than the freedom of speech and the freedom to speak out about our government. And that's what I'm fighting for here. I appreciate the judge's quick and careful consideration in this case, given what is at stake here. A lot is at stake. Hey, I wore the uniform to defend this country and to defend the Constitution. Secretary Hegseth censured me and is now trying to demote me for things that I said and for doing my job as a United States Senator. And in this case, we have the Constitution on our side. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Which brings me to Elissa Slotkin, who I think put this video together. And she should be proud that she did. A Michigan senator, badge of honor to be attacked by this administration. She has been called in for questioning, voluntary questioning apparently, by the FBI. You know, sort of like the Clintons being called in to give testimony about the Epstein connection to the House. This is their big concern, by the way, not protecting the victims, victims who have never met the President of the United States. I represent one of them, Lisa Phillips. Victims who have never met the Republican leaders, yet Clintons are now very, very popular to be brought in for some theater, performative art piece. And they tried the same thing with Elissa Slotkin. They sent a letter from Jeanine Pirro, remember her on Fox News now, Donald Trump's lackey running the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C., to come in for the criminal investigation. What's the criminal investigation? It was a 90-second video brought by former members of the military who are now elected officials expressing their First Amendment right, and it's true. Under the Code of Military Justice, under the Nuremberg principles, it is true. A soldier cannot follow illegal orders and use that as a defense. And that's all they were being reminded of, to kind of give them the courage that they needed. If they're ordered to, pull out their service weapon and fire indiscriminately on protesters, don't do it. I mean, that's the genesis of it. To remind them, they took their own independent oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, not the guy sitting in the Oval Office. So when they called Elissa Slotkin in, she, what's the nice way to put it? She gave them the middle finger effectively and said, we're not coming in. I'm not doing a voluntary anything. You want to do a subpoena? You want to challenge this in a courtroom? Go ahead. We already saw versions of this when senators and congresspeople and the vice president were called in to testify, with in the insurrection moment of Donald Trump. Some were forced to, some were not forced to. There were speech and debate issues. There's First Amendment issues. Bring it. In fact, here's Elissa Slotkin effectively saying, I'm not going in for an interview, and bring it. Play it.
I'm Senator Elissa Slotkin from Michigan. Last week, U.S. Attorney from the District of Columbia, former Fox host Jeanine Pirro, reached out asking to interview me because of a 90-second video that I filmed in November. This is on top of an FBI inquiry that came in from the Counterterrorism Division late last year. To review the bidding, in November, 6 of us with service and veteran background filmed a video restating the Uniform Code of Military Justice, saying that those in the military have a responsibility to reject illegal orders. In response, the president called for us to be investigated, arrested, and ultimately hanged. He ended up tweeting over a dozen times about that, and yesterday in Michigan falsely said that I stole my 2024 election. In response to the president's tweets, the threats went through the roof. We had over 1,000 threats come in. Over 100 were credible and are being investigated. I went on 24/7 security from Capitol Police. I had a bomb threat at my house. My parents were swatted in the middle of the night, and my siblings had cop cars placed in their driveways. And now he's using his political appointees at the FBI and the Department of Justice to follow through with his threats. To be clear, this is the president's playbook. Truth doesn't matter, facts don't matter, and anyone who disagrees with him becomes an enemy, and he then weaponizes the federal government against them. It's legal intimidation and physical intimidation meant to get you to shut up. He's used it with our universities, our corporations, our legal community, and with politicians who falsely believe that doing his bidding and staying quiet will keep them safe. No, I'm not going to do that, because this president does not represent the views of a majority of Americans. Even if you voted for him, I do not believe that his vision of America is shared by a majority of Americans. Because this country is worth fighting for. Our freedom of speech is worth fighting for. Our values, our core values, are worth fighting for.
So what's going to happen next? They're going to continue after her, and her lawyers have written to the Department of Justice and said, back off and drop your criminal investigation, just like Jeanine Pirro and others, and Jeanine Pirro again should back off and drop her criminal investigation of the Federal Reserve Chairman, Jay Powell, about cost overruns about 200-year-old buildings in D.C. So it's always Jeanine Pirro. Whenever it used to be Lindsay Halligan, but now Lindsay Halligan's out of the Department of Justice. It used to be Ed Martin, but Ed Martin's been fired. He used to be the head of the Weaponization Committee. They're running out of people who are puppets who are going to do Donald Trump's bidding. Jeanine Pirro seems to be a reliable puppet for Donald Trump. Go after Jay Powell, Federal Reserve, wreck our global economy, as we can see today. Jeanine Pirro. Go after sitting United States senators, Jeanine Pirro. Jeanine Pirro, by the way, who has a law license and also could be impeached and removed. Jeanine Pirro. So we're going to continue to follow it all right here on Legal AF and the MeidasTouch Network. Take a moment, hit the free subscribe button. I'm running a 35% off sale on Legal AF Substack paid membership to give us the resources we need to continue to grow. We're now number 2 and rising in U.S. politics on Substack of all Substacks, and that's all because of you. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.